All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to West New York Brews, Buffalo's beer and brewing podcast. My name is Scott. I'm a home brewer just outside of Buffalo, New York. And on this episode, I'm joined by Matt and Corey from Big Ditch Brewing. I'm joined with Jesse and Brian from Buffalo Beer League. And we're talking about Hayburner. We're doing a deep dive today on Buffalo's favorite IPA. So stick with us. We'll see you in a couple of seconds here. I don't know why it took so long on that just now. Ah, well. There's dancing if you're live with us. There's dancing. So if you're watching us live, we are most likely live on Facebook, on Twitter. You can comment, and we should be able to see those comments and throw them up. And it's on loop, because why not start like that, huh? All right, cutting it in 3, 2, 1. All right. So before we begin, I want to remind you that we are a member of the Hopped Up Network. It's a podcast network of independent, regional, local beer podcasts, and you can find out more at hoppedupnetwork.com. And I want to remind you of a few ways you can support the podcast before we begin. If you find this podcast useful or entertaining, or hopefully both, or you hate it, I don't care, please leave us a review on whatever podcast network you're using. It can be a bad review. Just say hi. And if you're so inclined, the next time you shop on Amazon, go to buffalobeerleague.com/Amazon. And every purchase you make will give us a small commission, literally pennies, but it won't cost you anything extra, so it helps us a little bit. So let's jump right in. On the stream here, hitting stuff, we have Corey Catalano and Matt Kahn from Big Ditch Brewing Company, some of the founders of Big Ditch. Can you guys bring us back to where the idea came from, where you were? Who wants to go first?
Or Hayburner?
No, for Big Ditch itself.
Oh, for Big Ditch.
Yeah.
It started with me collecting trash. Yeah.
All right, it started with Corey.
So we both worked in the pharmaceutical racket for many, many moons. As fate would have it, Matt's desk was like adjacent to mine. And I worked in a research and development lab, or a pilot lab, where we made real small batches of media that was to be scaled up for production. And a lot of the raw materials that came in were in this food grade, like really nice plastic buckets. As a home brewer, you can appreciate a really nice bucket.
Yep.
That rubber gasket and everything. So I started like stacking these things up at my desk, and Matt was like, "What are you doing?" I had like 12 of these things. So I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm going to try to make my own beer or something. But nonetheless, I have this nice stack of buckets. And at first glance, Matt was like, I don't know. I did a Mr. Beer kit. Mm-hmm. He lived in Boston. He can tell you the whole thing. But basically, it came out. It tasted terrible. He's like, don't even try it. But then by the next day, because if you ever get to know Matt Kahn, the gears start spinning. And he pulled me aside in the hallway. He's like, if we can make all these high purity stem cell research sorts of reagents and different chemicals and pharmaceutical applications, like, why couldn't we make really good beer? We should just open a brewery. So, Matt, I'll kind of let you take it over from there.
Yeah. I think I maybe even texted you that night, and I was like, "Hey, maybe we should open a brewery. We'll talk tomorrow."
Wow.
But that was it. So back then, this was February 2011. So we're coming up on now 12 years.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. We were all younger then. But back then there was, so who was open at that time? There was
you had Pearl Street, Flying Bison,
but Buffalo Brew Pub.
That's it.
Buffalo Brew Pub.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then you would have had, like regionally Southern Tier and EBC, Ellicottville.
Of course.
And that was it. And I was like, and actually I had known some folks in a previous job had like done some consulting for like Guinness or some other brewery maybe. And I'm like, Back then, I was like, well, it'd be really cool to work for a brewery, but I'd never put that together. And so then I was like, and I think like I had always thought about opening my own business, but I don't know if I knew that Corey had the same set of thoughts. But the next day it came in and like we just started talking about it, and he had wanted to open his own business, and so did I. And we're like, there's no one really else doing this, and like it sounds like fun. And that was that. We wrote down some like ideas for recipes on an index card that day, and then like the next day or the day after, Corey's like, I think I'm going to go to the homebrew store, Niagara Traditions. I'm like, I'll come with you. I think I came with you for that first time, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And then that's how it started, and away we went.
It's amazing probably how many local breweries have gone through Niagara Tradition.
Yeah. Well, that's the place you would go.
Right?
You know, I mean, that is the place.
As long as you're starting locally, that would have to be where it would begin. So you guys, you were both like biochemists?
Yeah. I mean, we both worked in the pharmaceutical industry and like either operations or sort of R&D.
All right.
Corey was a chemist and I was an engineer.
Okay, that sounds like a perfect combination to open a brewery. A chemist and an engineer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, we work well together, but also complement each other's, strengths and skills. So
right. So then you opened in 2014, and the tap room in 15. And I was going through some photos because that's when the podcast started too. Was in 2015, and I'm like, oh, I bet I got some old photos, and I did. I found one of Matt from the first Brewers Invitational at Pettibones. I won't throw it up here so that everyone can see it, but I showed Corey earlier.
It was a long time ago.
Right?
There's a lot of faces in those photos. You should throw it up there. There's faces I hadn't even thought about in a while.
Here.
The Brewers Invitational at Pettibones? Was that like the posts? Like which festival was this? I'm trying.
The Pettibones was in
at Salen's. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, in the ballpark.
At the park, but was it like post ballpark brew bash or was it like the
there? Well, I've still got a taster from it, but I think it's right here. Nope. Either way, can you see Resurgence, Flying Bison, and 12 Gates?
Yep.
We got.
I think I know
Kerr
which one
was his last name. Corey, I'm sorry, Sean Kerr.
That's right.
Oh, maybe this was. Okay, so maybe this was a brewer. So everybody brought something to this thing, and it was all like unique stuff.
Yep.
I remember being at this thing, but I didn't remember it being like the Brewers Invitational, which is at New York Beer Project. Is that right?
Yeah.
Invitational.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Pretty sure it was called the same thing.
Chocolate
We're gonna have to look up my taster.
Yeah, I remember like a bunch of crazy beers getting pulled out.
Man, I look young.
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, almost, right?
I think I'd have to search back in like 4 phones ago to find the pictures.
I did have to do
from
that.
the garage way back when.
Who else?
Oh yeah, my Chevelle was in those pictures.
Brian.
Yeah,
there's Brian. Brian's the
stack of scientific equipment in the back. That
Brian and Chris.
Yeah. Brian is, we figured out, we think the second oldest brewer in Buffalo, and Corey is number 3, and Colin's number 1.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that.
Tim just retired.
There you go. Okay.
And Colin's like right on his coattails, so he slides in there. But for a minute, I was getting nervous. Someone thought I was the oldest.
What about Carl?
Well, if you're going by age, yeah, Carl's got me beat by.
I see what you mean.
But
gotcha.
we're talking by like career.
Makes sense. Sorry.
How long have you worked for a brewery in Buffalo?
I'm so sorry, Carl, too. I didn't mean to call you old just now.
Oh, he's old.
Right?
He's old. Is he the actual age oldest?
I don't know. Let's look that up. I'm going to throw that to him. I bet if anyone knows, he would know who's older than him.
I don't know.
Rudy just retired too, right? So,
well, that's why Rudy was.
We were at Rudy's
number 2, I guess, right?
Retirement party, not question mark.
Question mark.
I just put a question mark there.
Anyway,
so sorry. So Big Ditch. Hayburner wasn't one of the opening beers, right? Or was it?
It was not. We I can almost remember the first beers and some of them are beers that some of them are beers that we still make. So Low Ridge was on the list.
Mhm.
Excavator.
And Cinnamon Apple was actually on the list because we were like, let's
Okay.
do a fall beer, but not a pumpkin beer. And then the other ones were ones that's hard for you to remember all of them. I think we had like a Dunkelweizen, which we wanted to do things that like people weren't really doing. So we're like, let's do like a dark wheat German beer, which nobody was doing. But then we didn't want to making that because nobody was drinking that either.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember. There was probably one other one that I don't remember what it was.
So in this
Blonde
picture,
Peach is up there too.
Blonde peach, a Belgian blonde ale with peaches. Yeah.
in this picture is Great Big Stash. Is that what that's
Great
called?
Big Steve.
Great Big Steve. Okay.
Well, our collaboration with Great Lakes.
All right.
And then you know what else is up there? I remember is there's a handwritten one for chocolate goza. You remember that, Corey?
Yep.
Oh my God.
So we made it. We were like, we'll do a goza with chocolate malt in it. It was pretty good, but it was so freaking salty. Like we put way so much salt in it. It was like seawater. So there's little happy accidents.
The Black Sea. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So anyway.
So I did a little bit of research on here, as I'm wont to do, as I'm looking up recipes, and it says an early iteration of this beer won gold in AWOG in the IPA category in 2014. How similar would that IPA be to what would become Hayburner?
So
It's pretty damn close. We had to change we changed our dry hop schedule a little bit.
And what are those and what times? No, I'm joking. Sorry.
the original homebrew one,
Yeah.
like, so okay, so the Hayburner ingredients have the things that have not changed very much. Is it's always had 2-row and a little bit of crystal in it. It's always been, tried to be somewhat lightly bittered, but the bitterness has for sure changed over the years,
Yeah.
And then it's always had like probably Cascade in it. I think there's probably been a little
Cascade Zeus.
But even that's not true, Corey, because that early version had Centennial and Citra.
I'm gonna go look at. I'm gonna go look at the picture on my kitchen wall. Hang on.
Right, you go look
at our original recipe.
So the original one had, I'm pretty sure, Centennial and Citra, and that one won that award, which we were shocked by. Like, I did not expect that to happen. And then by the time we went to open the brewery, which is just months later, hops were in such short demand that we could not get any Centennial.
Yeah.
And we could not get any Citra. I
got Rev 6 right here.
Okay.
Don't show them the numbers.
I don't want to see the numbers.
2-row, Crystal, Warrior, Columbus, Glacier, which we were, I'm pretty sure, the last brewery in America to use up the remaining hops of Glacier.
All right.
For real, they actually killed it.
They were farming it just for us.
They don't grow it anymore. And then Cascade. So
right. So the Glacier thing was because, well, like hop supply was an issue back then. So, and even like I said, by the time we opened, we couldn't get Centennial and we couldn't get Citra. So we had to switch the Citra to Falconer's Flayed, and the Centennial, you could get Centennial type hops. And Centennial type hops was just blend of Columbus and Cascade. So we started doing that. And then Glacier, we're like, we wanted to use hops that nobody else was using, so it wouldn't like run out or be very expensive.
It's a good idea.
And Glacier was like a little bit like peachy and stone fruity. So that's how we made Hayburner. So something similar, but other things very different. But it always tasted the same. It was like not too bitter, not too malt heavy. back then West Coast IPAs were still very much like what most people were doing, but like Heady Topper had come out, so you were like, all right, let's like keep the malt base a little lighter and keep the bitterness down a little bit and make it very like citrusy, and that's kind of the blueprint for Hayburner. So it was a blend between like where Heady Topper sort of was and what a lot of other IPAs were, which is a little more West Coast. So
it's kind of like my biggest question as a home brewer is like, with the hop supply, changing every year and the characteristics of hops changing based on crops, like how do you maintain that signature flavor, year after year? Like, is it just that, we forget what the flavor is from year to year? So, if there's a little variance, nobody really notices, or what goes into that?
We assess every beer at 8 a.m. before we put it in the package every day, right? Which a lot of people come to me and say, must be so great to just start your day off drinking beer. But in all reality, everybody really wants to just drink coffee, but you drag yourself in there coffeeless to keep your palate.
Sounds great when you're 20, right?
Right. Right. 37 is a little different. I would like a coffee right now. But so like we do sensory, and then with our pharmaceutical background, like the level of documentation you would see at our brewery is probably unlike most other breweries. So most breweries have like a brew sheet, a sheet of paper. We have batch records, which are 10 to 12 pages long, and we document every process step along the way. If we deviate from that process, we make sure we note it, and before it goes into a can or a keg, we assess it. We assess everything, but you have to do the same thing. Like this time of year, January, February is a real pain in the ass because the new crops start coming in, and you have to make sure your alpha acids are adjusted, and like these are all like theoretical numbers you're working with on a computer screen. But really, like the proof is in the glass. What does it taste like at the end of the day?
Or at the start of the day.
Or at the start of the day.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to bring Brian in. Brian's here.
Oh, hey, Brian.
I apologize for being late.
Hey, you look great, though. Haircut looks
nice
great.
Haircut. Yeah.
Right?
You gotta come correct with a burner.
Nice. I'm actually finishing my first. I might go for a second, but they are 7.2%. And I did want to touch on that. Is it 7.2% because that was the flavor you were going for and it just happened to be 7.2%? Or is that like a relic of the mid-aughts, right? Or late aughts, where we're trying to push the IBUs and the ABVs on everything as far as we can?
It was supposed to be 7%.
Okay.
But we messed something up. I forget.
I'll tell you
We calculated something wrong. And then we're like, oh, shit. We're 0.2% more.
Nice.
What we were doing was, by one way we were adding the
Because
hops,
we
we
were
were sort of
mashing?
whirlpooling it longer.
Yeah.
And then we found out that because of that, we were like boiling off some of the water during that whirlpool and concentrating it. So the gravity was higher than we thought. We weren't measuring it at the right step. So by the time, so we didn't learn this until we went to go package it. The first time we went to go package it, we're like, you're supposed to be within a 0.3% tolerance on your ABV. Mm-hmm. So like before we put 7%, we better go like, have somebody measure this to make sure it's accurate. And we're like, oh, whoops. It's actually, it was like 7.5%.
All right.
And then we're like, oh. And so we're like, legally, we need to be within 0.3%. We're like, let's bring that down a little bit to 7.2. We'll put that in the label and make sure we're within the range.
Yeah.
So that could have been part of the legend of Hayburner.
The legend.
Where it's like, boy, this seems a little stronger than I was ready for.
At least they're 12-ounce cans.
At least they were in 12-ounce cans. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, so we were shooting for 7. Why 7? I mean, nice round number, I guess. There wasn't too much thought about it, but I mean, we didn't want to do a double anything, and I think 7 seemed like just a good cutoff point for like a nice, strong you know.
I feel
But
like
it is-
7 is a cutoff point where once if you hit 8, anything
going
8
Imperial.
and above, that's a double.
I
In
always
my-
felt like above 7.5
reading
was
it.
like, if like
Right?
7.5, you could maybe call a single IPA, but that's about as high as you can go.
Yeah.
You know?
But
Mm.
with that 7.2 ABV, you guys kind of set the mark, right? Because now when all local breweries release an IPA and the ABV is 6.5, 6.7, maybe 6.8, they're always like, oh, it's not that bad because Hayburner's 7.2,
Yeah.
and everybody drinks that.
That certainly was not our intention.
Perceptibly drinkable, man.
Deceptively drinkable is a good way to describe it.
And it
Yes,
leaves room and market share for the Dayburner at 5.
it
Oh.
does.
Right?
Very
What I
good
was
point.
going to say though is about Hayburner is that we were trying to make it drinkable to some degree. So we didn't want to have the bitterness too high. We didn't want to have the malt too high, so it was like sweet or something. And then we worked hard to sort of disguise the ABV, which again I think in a lot of IPAs you get now, like you can't really smell or taste the ABV. Like other half will do a triple IPA where you can't smell it, can't get the ABV or something. So, but we were purposely trying to do that, and that might have been a little bit of a new thing maybe for Buffalo when we did that, but I don't know. We weren't. I don't think we thought we were being so like original or anything.
Yeah. We did have to change our yeast a few times.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did that too.
You guys sent me 05, US 05. So
Yeah, I was surprised to see that 05 in there for a hazy.
That's not well. I mean, the haziness doesn't. I mean, well, I don't want to give away too much, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the yeast doesn't have that the haziness. There are brewers making a lot of hazy IPAs using that yeast.
Yeah.
But I will say that is a yeast that will work well to make Hayburner. It's actually not exactly our yeast. For logistical reasons, we put that in there because it will make a very close Hayburner, but not exactly what we use.
now I remember on the original post it said that you could get the liquid yeast version, but I didn't see that as an option. So I
This
just went
year
with the 05.
it was a huge pain in the ass, so we didn't do it this year.
Ooh,
the first year we did it.
Yeah, it's like
okay. This is not the first year doing this.
Yeah, we've done this before. We did it in this started during COVID because like our tap room was closed and like even our brewers were like, well, what are we doing? So we're like, hey, at Corey's, whose idea was this your idea, Corey? Maybe it was mine. These sounds
mine,
like
yours, Dave's. I don't know.
This is probably my fault, like I guess, but
We
But
did
that's
modify
we actually-
the process. It was a lot less painless this time.
Oh, good.
yeah, we did it in 2020 and it was very popular, and like again, it was right around the holidays, so people were buying them as Christmas gifts. And a couple years went by, and our brewers had a little time this year, and we did it again. So it's similar, but a little different than the first time.
All right. So, if I was going to pick up one of these homebrew kits, because there's still a lot of time left, because we need this in by March 31st. And I was telling Brian, I brewed mine about a week and a half ago, and I probably brewed it a little bit too early. As long as I can keep the oxygen off it, what I'm actually doing right now is holding it in the primary, and I haven't dry hopped yet. And let it sit underneath that CO2 blanket for a little bit while longer. But, sorry. Point is, if you go to Big Ditch Brewing, you can still pick this up. And I got the all grain version, came with the bag of grain, came with the yeast, and came with 2 hop packets, a kettle hops and a dry hops. How has the reception been on this? Like number of orders, has it been growing year to year?
We did it again. We've only done it twice, so we just did it in 2020. We didn't do it last year, and then we did it this year.
All right.
And I think we sold a little less this year than we sold in 2020, but 2020 was so different because
Let's push this.
People were just like home with nothing to do, I think, during COVID. But it's still, I think they're nearly gone.
We've sold most of them already.
Good.
So I'm going to volunteer to be that guy that you always see in the TV show that doesn't know what's going on, and they have to explain everything too, so the audience knows too. What's going on with this contest?
This is a change we did this year, right? So we because we were doing it again, we're like, well, maybe 100 something people already did this. Why would they want to do it again? So like, we'll make it interesting. So, and we actually, Corey, me and you, we still had to put some planning into this a little bit, but we sort of said, hey, make your Hayburner homebrew clone, get it into us, and we're going to judge it. And the winner will get, Hayburner for a year, which will basically mean a gift card to buy Hayburner from us for a year, like a case of Hayburner a month for a year.
Which is less than I go through a normal year, but
That's a lot of hate.
Right.
That's a lot of Hayburner.
We tell you how much you can have in a year. It's not like, well, I drink a case. There'd be people I know that it'd be like a whole batch.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So how are the entries being judged? Is it like a contest where like the best result wins, or is it like, who has the most Facebook followers?
Well, no, we want you to like submit the beer, and then we will,
Judge it up against a control sample.
Nice.
And, whichever most closely resembles what we would consider Hayburner
Right.
within our control spec,
But I think there may be also, like, I was thinking about this. We may do like another little award for, like, let's say it doesn't taste like Hayburner, but it's still really freaking good. Like, we may still do an award for that too. I was thinking. So we haven't worked out the whole judging scenario. There's some things I want to get like a celebrity judge in for this if I can. I don't know who that would be.
Dolly Parton.
Oh,
Perfect.
Wow.
Does she like Hayburner? I don't know.
Wow, she could, yeah.
Who doesn't? So how are you going to, I mean, you gave us 05, so that might be a tip off. If somebody buys a keg of Hayburner from you guys and just beer guns it into a couple of bottles.
That's true. I still think that
I'm not
work,
saying
though.
I'm going to do that, but the
You're
thought
right.
crossed my mind.
Well, now you've told everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now everybody.
My
Yeah,
plan
I
is-
mean, I don't know. We do a lot of shelf life studies, so
Yeah.
the slightest touch of oxidation will,
Whew, that
impact
scares me.
your
So you've never judged a
eating style.
Yeah, right. So let's say I picked up one of these, hypothetically. What kind of water do you guys use at Big Ditch? Are you using municipal water and then treating it?
Yep, I
Which
mean,
you would have to, right? For your
yeah,
size.
it's charcoal filtered,
Right.
right? And then we UV it just to make sure if there's any bugs or anything floating through the water, it's basically as close as you can get to sterile.
All
This way, when it sits in like a cold liquor tank, there's no risk of anything propagating up in there or anything like that. But yeah, it's just Buffalo municipal water, which we have pretty good water for brewing.
Yeah.
You look at it minerality wise, it's pretty even across the board. If you want to increase some levels of stuff, you can by adding different sorts of salts and things like that.
Ooh, that was really, really vague. Okay. That's okay though. I'm just saying.
Scott, they said they can't give away all their secrets.
It is totally okay to be vague, but that was super vague. All right. I do like in the recipe I've got a mash temperature on here. That's the kind of stuff where as a homeroom I'm like, ooh, I've got a mash temp. I don't have to guess at stuff like that. Mash temp says about 155. Pre-boil gravity of about 1055 and a original gravity of about 1063, which is not actually going to produce like a 7.2, but it will get pretty close to 7. So is this recipe closer to what you guys were doing homebrew wise? Or is it more or less
No, that's what we do
what
now.
it's become?
If you, it's pretty close to what we do now.
All right.
Well, and because it's not exactly the yeast we use, there's some,
Makes sense.
based on the attenuation of SO5, it's going to get you well within the ballpark.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get it down to like 10-10, 10-9.
You could also say this. Yeah. I mean, like if you just add the yeast packet, you'll probably get one result.
Yeah.
If you add that yeast packet and make a yeast starter out of it, you'll probably get a different result. And if you add that yeast starter and you well oxygenate your worts, you'll probably get yet a different result. So it depends on the process and how diligent you are about doing it. But, obviously we make sure we pitch enough yeast and oxygenate the wort real well. So,
and it mentions
some,
what's it mention at 15 minutes out? Some yeast nutrient.
Yep.
It does
that
mention
will also
too.
help you. Mm-hmm.
Montana zinc. As a home brewer, the biggest thing we noticed in like our fermentation and attenuation was using pure oxygen, as opposed to just shaking the living piss out of it. You can only get so much.
Yeah, oxygen really changes your fermentation.
Yeah,
oxygen and temperature control are huge.
Yep.
I think Corey was talking about like the speed. Like a homebrew fermentation might take you 2 weeks. Like that usually doesn't happen for any ale fermentation, unless it's a big gravity or something like that. But our fermentations are at terminal in 4 or 5 days usually. That didn't happen when we were homebrewers.
Right. You got the bigger toys. You got the nicer equipment.
Yeah.
What your kit?
Ahead.
What kind of efficiency do you assume on that? Because I mean, I like to homebrew, but my efficiency is terrible. I get like 65%.
Yeah.
So 7.2 probably end up like 6.5 for me. Probably, right?
It's probably like 70-75%, which is sort of an average.
Average, yeah.
Homebrewing efficiency.
Yeah, but you got to figure the grain was crushed through our mill the same way that we would crush our grain. So it'll in everyone else's system be a little different, but we do have a fairly tight mill gap. So
but I don't know if every home brewer knows this. So like if you most want to impact your efficiency, it's with your mill. The better you're able to crush your grain, the more efficiency you can get out of it. This is stuff we look at all the time at our brewery.
Yeah, I never changed mine. Whatever it was, stock. Let it go.
We never did either when we were homebrewers.
Right? Compared to hop.
But like if the mill's not dialed in, like it might cost us, several $100s more a batch to make the same beer. So these are things you need to look at.
Definitely different scale.
Yep, absolutely.
So if I did want to bump that up, if I just threw more 2-row in there, would I lose the same character? It'd probably be fine, right?
Yep. 2-row or DME or something like that shouldn't impact things too much.
Right. So Jesse, you got to pick one up. We can do this together.
Really?
We'll do this. Well, I'm using a Grainfather, so I get about 75%.
More fun if we make it a competition.
So I do want to talk about the history a little bit more of Hayburner. But to stay on this topic and being an annoying homebrewer, can I throw up that recipe again?
Yeah,
I'm going to throw up the recipe that I came up with based on just trial and error over a little bit of time, but I completely changed the hop schedule based on this homebrew kit and blog posts. And again, you can tell me, hey, that'll make an IPA, or you can go as much as into as you want. Here it is here. I'll go through it for you for people who are just listening too. When I'm putting together something, the Carapils, I only put a half a pound in there. It mentioned Carapils on Big Ditch's website, so I put a half a pound in there. I put a little bit of Crystal 10 in there, and then the rest of it, 1 pound of Crystal 10, and then the rest of it was just 2-row. Because I felt like, I think in one of the things you said, you mentioned that you wanted to keep it light on adjuncts. So I went heavy on the base malt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Give me your impressions on
you're right.
that.
That's right.
All right. And then the hops. Again, the hops is where I changed things up because I got this kit and I took things out and weighed them, and I only got 1 ounce of kettle hops. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to get the most amount of IBUs I can out of this 1 ounce. And the CTZ and the Warrior were both listed on the website. And those had the highest alpha acid. So I'm like, well, I'm going to throw those then in the kettle to try to bump my IBUs, and I'll throw everything else in the dry hop because I only had 1 ounce to work with. Can you see it? I can go through it if,
I
if
can
you
see
can't
it.
see it.
What do you
I
think?
put in the dry hop then 2 ounces of Falconer's Flight, 2 ounces of Cascade, and 1 ounce of Azaka.
What do you think, Corey?
I would not put Azaka in your dry hop. That's
Not
a
that you
good
don't, but
pedal
you
addition.
wouldn't. All right.
Huh?
Yeah. If you look at your Azaka alpha acids, are the same as your Warriors.
Yeah, the 15. That's because I thought it was Galaxy up until very recently.
Oh. Yep. So that's a little key right there.
Yep. All right.
And then other than that, like the only other thing I was going to say was that your color's a little too dark. You probably got a little too much of that crystal in there.
Yeah. All right. I will take that to heart. Because I was literally, up at a light trying. This is not Hayburner specific. This is anytime I'm trying to come up with a similar recipe. I'm up at the light, like that's the color I'm going for here, and playing around with things. When I hit this, and it gave me the same exact pre-boil and starting gravity
You're close.
as this had, I was like, oh, okay, just stop playing. You're fine.
You're close.
Yep. That's fun.
Close.
So after I make this one, or after I finish this one, I should say, I will. I'll try this out, and I'll keep experimenting, and then maybe I'll bring that in. Although I assume you guys get homebrew from people all the time, and I feel like
Not
whenever
really.
I bring some to a brewer, they're just like, "Oh, thanks."
I feel
out
like
the
that
window.
happened a lot more 8 years ago.
Okay.
You know,
You know what? We have
People just
interviewed
don't bug you
brewers
anymore?
though who brought their homebrew.
Yeah.
Like which me and one of our brewers, Dave, he was mentioning that Dave's like really like our R&D manager right now. So he's in charge right now of all the experimental stuff and new things and that sort of thing. And David mentioned he's like, I almost brought my homebrew to the interview, but it's kind of a bold move because it's
Yeah.
like if it's good, that's great, but if it's bad, you everything else might have been good, but you screwed it up with your homebrew. You know?
Yeah, that's a good
But he
point.
decided not to do it, which I don't know if that was the right move or not, but we did hire him and he's worked for us for 7 years, so I guess so.
Have you had it since his homebrew?
Dave?
Yeah, he's
I don't
probably
think-
not homebrewing much anymore, but
yeah.
He's still homebrew occasionally. I don't think quite as much as he used to. But
he used to homebrew after working professionally way more than I would ever recommend. Like
Yeah.
that's how you know the dude loves brewing. Like,
Yeah.
why would you go home to make an absolute disaster of your basement
yeah.
after you just did this all day? Like the nice part about making even pilot batches in a brewery is like trench drain, dump the kettle on the floor,
Yeah.
hose it down the drain. Well,
yeah, we'd be like dumping it outside in the snow.
Oh,
oh man, yeah.
you guys don't just dump it in your basement, Jesse? No.
No.
All right, never mind.
My garage.
Running the immersion
anywhere.
chiller in the dead of
Oh.
winter right
Yeah.
now, just like make my driveway a sheet of ice.
Mm-hmm. Or like if the faucet is frozen, like, well, I guess we're
Yeah.
just not chilling it today. We're just gonna let it sit overnight. Outside.
We chilled a batch of beer in snow.
Yeah.
One of the first ones.
There was maybe a low bridge, I think. At your
There was.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're like, how do we get this shit cold? And we just stuck it in the snow. We went to go get tacos.
Nice.
That was
Yeah.
oh,
So-
boy.
This is my fault because I'm the one who's supposed to be going in a logical order, and I was until I jumped straight to the homebrewing section of it, and that's my fault. We were talking about when you first started brewing Hayburner, and I had mentioned the AWOG win, and then you talked about bringing it in, and you showed us the 6th revision. There's been, as of 2020, 151 revisions of Hayburner. How many would you say there are now? Or you might know exactly.
I think we're probably getting close to 200.
200.
It's gotta
Wow.
be. Well, because we got 2 different sites right now
Right?
brewing. So now we got like 2 different revision numbers. I guess if you mash those 2 together, you're probably close to 200. Yeah.
Okay, so they split off. You branched. You don't count each one as
I'm
its own
looking it up
revision.
right
Like
now.
the
They
three-
are each their own revision. That's why, like, for me to actually get the actual tally, I'd have to
I'm
look
looking it
at
up.
They
one.
have slightly
on my
different
side.
recipes because the equipment profiles are different.
That's what I was going to ask. It's a good
Well,
question.
mostly
Slightly different.
it's mostly like most of those revisions are because the hop year has changed,
Mhm.
or the vendor of that hop might have changed. So you might have some variability in like the alpha acid content. So,
I have that
like,
we're up to 211.
Whew. Okay.
Wow.
most of those are like the
Small
changes
things.
would be nothing. Yeah,
Well,
like,
again, there's
Not
big
huge
ones.
changes.
There's ones where we again changed the hop that was in there because Glacier didn't exist. There are ones where we stopped in the beginning. We worked hard to try to like clarify Hayburner,
Mhm.
and then we were watching like what like a brewery like Treehouse was doing, and like why are we spending all this time and money trying to make this thing look clear?
Yeah.
And we're like dumping a bunch of beer down the drain, trying to clarify it and get it to the right clarity. So we stopped doing that. There's all sorts of like big changes we made along the way. I mean, it's changed. If you drank Hayburner from when we released it versus today, like you wouldn't think it was the same.
Yeah. We all remember Hayburner.
Right. That's when that
Hayburner.
started. That was the first
Yeah.
test. And like we
Nice.
thought that was better. And then we're like, all right, we'll just keep doing that.
And that just
And
became
then so like it's funny because it's like it's not really the same beer, but it kind of is. So like they're all small tweaks along the way, though. You know,
So what effect has the new facility had on the brewing process? Has it made it easier, or has it had no effect at all? Or
I mean, the new facility is twice the size brewing capacity, right? So it's a 40 barrel brew house. So in effect, in one shift, you can do what you would do in 2 shifts at the original site. So it's more efficient. There's a centrifuge there, which allows us to basically spin solids out of the beer. So what would take a day or 2 in the bright tank to like kind of like settle out, you don't have to wait for that anymore. The beer is a little bit brighter and cleaner right off the get, so it allows us to package it more efficiently and quickly.
based on the color. Can you tell which facility this came out of, or no?
They look exactly the same.
Nice.
They taste the same. We do shelf life and stability studies. So part of
Yeah, what
the 8 a.m. beer.
That's what
the
vexes
can
me
batches
the
are going out of
most.
M Street. Sorry, what's that, Jesse?
I said that's what vexes me the most is how you make these minute changes to get the same flavor. I don't know how to quantify scientifically flavor. You know what I mean?
Well, flavor is, I mean, subjective because it's based on one's palate, right?
Right.
That's why you fill the room with more than just me. I can't, like, a sensory can't be one person. You try to do it with minimum of 3, maximum of whoever's on staff, and we all take our notes and we all describe the flavor profile a little bit differently. Like Matt might say he gets something that's woody, and I might say I get something that's pineapple. Like, but is what it comes down to is like, do my notes repeatably look the same? And does Matt's notes look repeatably the same? And are we having the same conversation every day? Or is there somebody saying like, I wouldn't package this? Like, and if you got that, then we have to like take a deeper dive.
How often does that happen?
There's small variations too. I don't want to make it sound like it's exactly the same thing.
Right.
every
It's a
time.
range, right?
It's still our brewery is not a fully automated brewery, so there's little variation in how we do things, but
Like,
the variation is within the tolerance of what most of our customers can detect, I think.
I guess it just comes with experience to be able to like taste that and say, well, this just needs a little bit more of X or Y.
It does.
That's
Sometimes we'll be like a beer's too bitter. Does everybody think it's too bitter? And like, yeah, it's a little too bitter. And then we're like, well, how much less bitter would you want it? Like 10%, 25%, 50%? And then, yeah, 10, 15%. Okay, well, that's what we'll do the next batch. And that's it. And that's it. But if someone was like, yeah, this beer is orange, I think it should be brown. Like, well, we're not doing that. Okay, that's a big change. That's another beer. So there, there's things you can change, and there's things you can't change. Like we couldn't change that dry hop to some other completely different hop. That would be a different beer. They're small changes, but again, they've been done slowly over time. If we just brewed the 2014 version of Hayburner yesterday, and tomorrow we brew the 2023 version, you'd be like, these are different beers. They're not the same. What the hell's going on? But they're small changes we made over time. Does that
I've
make
got
sense?
a 2014 can on my shelf I want to open soon. I'm sure it'll be good.
I still have one at the brewery, but I'm not going to open it, I don't think.
Yeah, right. I actually don't. That would be cool if I did, but one of these days,
Yeah,
I'll find one. I'll track one down.
you can.
How?
There's a
Sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to ask you how many batches have you done? I feel like this is at your fingertips. How many batches have you done?
It used to be. I don't really know. It's in the thousands of batches of Hayburner.
I can't imagine that's a bad thing. That has to be a good thing that one of your beers has taken off so well in this region. Is it a little bit of a curse that you need to spend so much of your resource on this one instead of new ideas?
That's a core
the
question.
goal, right?
Well, yeah, right.
I wouldn't say it's a curse. Like, it's interesting when we brew something wildly different than Hayburner because the staff has to almost hyper fixate on how to actually brew again. Because you almost get so so used to I turn the valve now and I shut the water off now, and then we can literally brew Hayburner in our sleep, right? But it is really an exciting and fun day when we brew something totally new and different, which is what having Oak Street has done for us, because the original location on Huron, we now can breathe new breath into that brew house, and that's really the R&D facility, which I don't spend much time at. I'm too busy making sure the cogs and the wheels are turning at Oak so that Hayburner tastes the same for you guys. But that's what Dave, our R&D lead, is always doing. We got all sorts of wild shit coming through there, and not all of it works, but that's what you got to do. You're not going to hit a home run every time. Sometimes you won't even hit a double. You're just hoping for a single, right? Just get on base.
Base hit, yeah.
Yeah. This is good. We can serve it. How can we make it better?
Yeah.
And that's constantly what we're evaluating and reevaluating.
I was going to mention that Corey has said before that Hayburner tastes like work.
That's funny. You should make that a shirt. It would only be
for the
you
brewers,
guys, but
could be a brewer shirt. But when I heard that and think about it, I was like,
Tastes like Friday night. Hey,
there's worse jobs, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that could be a bad thing.
It's not motor oil for sure.
As we're wrapping this up, because I don't want to keep you guys much longer, but when did you first realize that Hayburner was taking off? Oh, okay, we got a thing here.
So when we came out the gate, we had 3 beers when we opened, we had Lowbridge, and then we had Excavator, which actually that's what I'm. If I can do this, that's what I'm drinking now. We just put that back in cans. So I'm having one of
Excellent.
those. And then we had Hayburner, and I honestly did not know which one would be like the best selling one. I kind of thought maybe it might be Lowbridge because it was the latest one.
Mhm.
I know our wholesaler Triad was really keen on Excavator. They thought, oh, like this is a dark beer. And then Hayburner was the IPA, so I always had a shot. But like it was maybe not only like a few months into it. I want to say like 2 or 3 months where like you could see that Hayburner was just like taking off. And so it was the first beer that we double brewed. And then before you know, we're just making it over and over again.
Yeah.
And so we were selling a lot of it. And then like the moment that I remember we're really thinking that Hayburner was really, really a thing is I was away on a rare vacation with my family. I don't take too much time off, but try to when I can. And we were actually in Disney. I had taken the kids to Disney, and I got a call from our sales manager, and he was like, "I just got some data, and Hayburner is like the #1 best-selling beer in Western New York, best-selling craft beer in Western New York." And I didn't know that. I just thought it was really, really good, but I didn't know it was that good. So that was kind of like a holy shit moment. Like that wasn't what we set out to do. Pretty impressive,
Yeah.
Right.
That's the moment I remember.
So how much of your numbers does it represent now?
Ooh.
It's still like probably 70 to 75% of our.
That's higher than I
volume.
would have guessed. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a ton of Hayburner.
Me too.
Yeah,
Same. Yeah.
yeah.
I go through a lot. I process a lot of Hayburner.
Same.
Is what happens.
It's a little bit of like there's this time where I was like why? I really like not and I can tell you why, but it's tough to even think about. But again,
I'll
I
tell
think
you
it's
why after you answer, please.
all right. I'll tell you why I think,
Go
and
ahead.
then we'll see how closely our opinions match. But but I mean, obviously, like I think the beer is good. Like it's again, like I said, low bitterness, which makes it drinkable. The ABV is well hidden. It's not too sweet. It's got a lot of aroma and flavor. Like I don't think it's the best IPA that's ever made. I think we've made better IPAs than Hayburner even, but I do think it's very consistent. And the consistency drives, I think, a lot of what people like about it. And then I also think like Corey came up with that name. The name was a great name for it. It has a little backstory. I think the artwork was like probably the best, maybe, at least at the time, some of the best artwork that anyone in Buffalo had put on a package,
Yeah.
So I think that was cool. It had a fun brand. And also the other thing I want to say about Hayburner is and I'm sure you guys understand, it's like there are way more expensive IPAs out there. It's very affordable for the quality, which is really value. So those are all the things that I think kind of make Hayburner, what it is.
I don't need to answer now. Yeah. No, what I was going to say was
I spent a little time thinking about this. Yeah.
what I was going to say was it's consistency, it's availability, and it's price.
Yeah.
It's you know what you're going to get when you grab a Hayburner. And it used to be, Brian and I have talked about this many times. It used to be you go out somewhere and you ask, what craft beer do you have on tap? And they'd tell you, and you'd be like, all right. Well, then give me the Southern Tier IPA, please. Right? If they had 3 craft beers and 2 of them are Guinness and Sam Adams, we're like, okay, please give me the Southern Tier. And Southern Tier has been not completely replaced, but now those same places, they are willing to go to Hayburner.
Yeah.
So it's a place. I was at a diner the other day where they don't have a great tap list, but they have Hayburner, and I know what I'm getting. And yep, please give me the Hayburner. And then third was price.
That's a testament to our sales team too.
Yeah.
Like they went out and just tried to sell it everywhere.
They
and after
did.
a while, like here's one of the things that we saw early that was surprising is we'd have a place put it on and they'd buy like a 6 keg and it would sell real fast and they'd take it off and switch it for something else.
Mhm.
And then we'd go back and be like, well, if it sold real fast, why'd you take it off? Put that back on. So they'd put it back on, the same thing would happen. And after a while, people would ask for it. And like our sales guy, our sales manager Andrew, he's sort of said it became like the call IPA at a lot of Buffalo bars. People would ask for it. So once that happened, it became like really a thing, And again, I just, I would say it's due to the price and the consistency, and Corey's done a great job of the consistency, and we all work hard to keep our costs affordable. We were always shooting for the middle of the range in terms of craft beer that we were trying to sell to. We weren't shooting for like the geekiest of beer geeks necessarily, although we do make beers for that group. But we were trying to bring people in that hadn't had much craft beer really. So that goes to the affordability as well too.
I think it was like 2016 or 2015 when I walked into a bar and people didn't really know what Big Ditch was a brewery, but people would ask, what type of Hayburner do you have? And that's a testament to like just how well branded it was. Like Hayburner in its own right is its own brand, right? Yeah. People were like, what type of Hayburner? They didn't realize they wanted an IPA. Mm-hmm. They're like, just like, there's this beer out there called Hayburner, and I want something like that.
I don't like hops. Do you have a Hayburner?
Yeah.
We have heard that a lot, though. People would say in the early days, and even still, there's people we still hear this from. It's like, I don't really like IPAs, but I like Hayburner. And I think the reason for that is the fact that we were not trying to make it again too like IPA was really associated with bitterness.
Yeah.
You think about some of those legacy old school IPAs, Racer 5.
Yeah.
That's like so that just like destroy your resin. Yeah.
And I never really, even myself, liked IPAs all that much when we were sort of learning about craft beer because they were so bitter, But then, again, like I think New England sort of really were the ones that shaped these like not super bitter IPAs, and that got us thinking about it a little bit. And that's what we started hearing from people too. Is like I don't like IPAs, but I like this, and that had something to do with it as well.
So before we let you go, and thank you so much for doing this, for talking.
Thank you guys.
We could talk Hayburner all day.
Oh yeah.
You said you've got beers coming out for the beer geeks because you're talking to 3 of them right here. What's really getting you guys excited right now?
So new stuff coming out. So, well, first of all, since we opened Oak Street, the new brewery, as Corey was saying, that gives us more room to do some new things at Huron Street. And so we're going to be, we're only a couple months away from having a lager out all year round, which we have not been able to do since we opened, actually. And so,
I'm super excited about that.
It's a rebranded beer that tastes like beer. It was the Hellas recipe.
Oh, that beer is fantastic.
Yep, that's going to be rebranded to a new beer called Little Waves, and we're brewing the first batches of that right now, and that should be out in March timeframe. So you guys will probably like that. We're playing around with a few more West Coast IPAs these days. West Coast, it seemed like to me, and you see if you guys agree, but West Coast just like vanished off the face of the earth for years. And I feel like they're finally starting to come back a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably thank Carl and Pressure Drop for that. Like he's definitely.
I was going to say they're still in the first ward, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's probably revitalized an interest in West Coast IPAs in our area, so that's awesome. So we're going to do a few of those. We got one called Miles in the 90 coming out the end of February that we just brewed. I think like last week we brewed that. So that's in process. What other stuff do we have going on?
I don't know. Like we got the Beer Geeks in there with Dave. They're doing the collaboration. Yeah. So like you get like that's not just us. It's every local brewery in the region. They do some sort of goofy fun stuff.
You know what we're making for that, Corey?
Sounds pretty wild.
We'll tell. Well, I'll share it here. It's for listeners.
We'll list it. You don't have to.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if they have that out yet. But anyway, we've been playing more with a little bit more non-alcoholic beers, a little bit.
Oh,
So,
fun.
so Dave's brewing with them, and they wanted to make this. This wasn't his idea. It was a non-alcoholic pastry stout.
Wow.
You're making an NA beer?
Wow.
Yep.
Pastry
Non-alcoholic
stout.
pastry stout.
I-
Dave already
Okay.
brewed. We just had the group in the other day to do the first little test batch. Came out really good.
A lot of
he's got another
R&D
one
into
planned.
this guy.
I'm
This
speechless.
is huge.
Yeah.
Literally
Good
huge.
work.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of development work that goes in. These are things we couldn't do. Like, we didn't have the time to do all this, but he's doing a lot of development work on stability and things like that of these beers. So we're putting some time into it.
Right. I'm on the Steelbound
So
team,
there's
but you
just
guys
no
already
yeast
won.
in it, is what you're saying, right?
What's that?
There's just no yeast in it. Because
Let's ferment it out.
There's some yeast in it. There's,
okay.
it's not non-alcoholic. Official non means less than 0.5%. And then there's alcohol-free, which is 0.0. Ours will be 0.4%.
That's amazing. I'm 100% in.
Yep.
So Scott, real quick, I have two questions for Matt and Corey about upcoming stuff. And while we have you guys, is there any chance? Question one: is there any chance we'll see No Puns Intended canned in the future? And two, when will we see another Lock IPA beer?
One, yes, there is a
Oh.
chance, a good chance.
Okay.
Hints are football season's over, but there will be another one later this year. So maybe look forward to that. A Lock IPA beer.
I love that beer series.
Yeah, it's not like definitively in the plans, but like we're still going to release like a dozen new IPAs this year. So just because they don't have Lock IPA on them doesn't mean that we're not doing new IPAs. And again, some might be like a few more West Coast this year, but there'll be some other hazy IPAs, that sort of thing. So no Lock IPAs, but definitely some new IPAs this year. Dave's messing around with some cryo hops right now, so he's got some things planned.
Nice.
As a elementary school music teacher, I love that so many of your beers revolve around, and the brewery name itself revolve around the Erie Canal. I had a kid a couple of years ago. We sang the Erie Canal song, and he goes, "My dad goes to the brewery. It's named after the Erie Canal." Like, yes, it is. I know your dad, and we've been there together. Yep.
That's awesome.
As I always say, like to combine a little bit of history with drinking. So,
So, guys, anything you want to add? Because I'm almost done.
No, I mean, get your homebrew kits together.
Please do, everyone. At
Brew it
Big
up.
Ditch's website.
And I look forward to doing a really long sensory one morning.
Awesome.
Jesse, he's talking to you. Make sure you get a kit.
Yeah. Said I've got mine. It's sitting on a CO2 blanket right now.
nice.
We
I'll
would
make
do
sure-
the same thing commercially if we didn't want to dry hop a beer right away. So
Right? Just let it sit.
you're on the right
Let
track
it
there.
sit. My basement is at like 66 degrees, which is
Perfect.
gonna be okay. Right. So, guys, thank you so much. This was phenomenal.
No, thank you
Thanks
guys.
for having
Appreciate
us.
it. Appreciate you guys, and it's been we've been doing stuff like this for, I don't know, when was the first time we met you guys? Must have been 2013, something like that.
Yeah, it was a very, very long time ago.
Probably been 10 years for us too. So thanks for doing all the things you guys do to keep promoting, local beer in Buffalo. You guys are awesome.
We're happy to do it. Cheers.
Cheers to that. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. There you go.